Hey, Stoney here with another tutorial of Mechabellum. So now you've learned the basics of Mechabellum. Congratulations, you're now ready to jump into the multiplayer. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how you can win your placement matches in the multiplayer. Let's go. To start off, with the multiplayer, you want to get to the top, you want to hit multiplayer, and then at the far right, you'll be able to start matchmaking. Your first couple of games will be what we call placement matches. Once you've finished your placement matches, you will get a number called MMR. And what MMR will tell you is approximately where your skill level will be, and the system will try to find other players with similar MMRs to play with you. The more MMR you're getting, the better your opponents will become. And then if you keep losing to your opponents, then your MMR will drop, and then your future opponents will be more of your level. So it's a mechanism that ensures that your games are always interesting. You're not facing off opponents that are way better than you or players that are way worse than you. In this tutorial, we're going to talk a bit more about the fundamentals of strategy in Mechabellum. And since we are going to jump into a live game, so we got to be a little bit more aware of the time. So let's try to cover as much as we can, and let's see how far we get. So we're going to get into that first game. This video is really for players that are starting off. So the ideal MMR range for you right now to get the most out of this video should be undefined, which means you never play any ladder game, to, I would say, about 600 MMR. So we're going to start matchmaking. What you do is you click on the button here and you choose 1v1. Now you do have options to go with like 2v2 or free-for-all. 2v2 and free-for-all in my mind right now are more of a fun mode, so you can certainly try them, but 1v1 ladder is where it's at. I think that's where the best expression of skill is in Mechabellum. All right, so we are starting, and you notice the MMR here is pending, and my opponent also does not have an MMR, so we're both brand new to the game. First of all, let's choose our specialist. If you're at a lower MMR range, I recommend units or starting packs that involves a Stonecaller. Players at the lower MMR range tend not to understand how to deal with this unit, so this is a artillery-based unit. So in this case, I'm going to go with the Amplify Specialist with the Arclight and the Stonecaller. When you're playing at lower MMR, I recommend playing in standard position. Well, or another way to put it is in defensive position. So in Mechabellum, there's two ways to play the game. One is aggro, the other one is standard. Whenever people talk about aggro, that just means your units are sort of on the line or close to the line in this area. That allows your units to move towards your opponents a lot faster, and with the objective of capturing tower. But because you're starting off, there's a lot of nuance in aggro, a lot of timing, a lot of positioning that's difficult to grasp when you're new to the game. So I recommend playing as standard. As standard mostly focuses on unit combination and not so much on the speed and positioning of the unit. When you're playing standard with Stonecallers, this is the type of position that I like to build, is just have Stonecallers in front of the tower, Arclight slightly behind the tower, and then I would like to buy 2 chaff units. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead with crawlers. I like to put crawlers 2 squares vertically behind the tower. Why is that? Well, in standard, what I like to do is to have crawlers split behind the tower. As the crawler move forward, they actually split into 2 streams, and this actually forces my opponents to have more shots to kill this entire squad of crawlers. And since I'm Amplify Specialist, I'm going to put these items on the Stonecallers so that they can actually do more damage to the tanks. So in this case, my opponent added a anti-missile device for the round 1. I think that is a bit of a waste, but we'll see. Lots of tanks, lots of arc lights. So that's actually really good. Because it's gonna kill my crawlers very quickly. The anti-missile device is actually getting value, which is very nice. All right, Stonecrawlers, just being a nuisance here. I wonder if this Stonecrawler is actually able to get that missile interceptor. If it can, then that's 100 supply down the drain from my opponent that he's not going to be able to get back. I mean, he's trying his hardest. Okay, the game actually ended in the draw. Round 2. We got our unit drop here. Now, looking at the board, what is my opponent weak into? What is he strong into? He is very strong in terms of chaff clear. He's got multiple arc lights, multiple sledgehammers, and now because he's a saber-tooth specialist, he has a heavy hitting unit as well in the form of saber-tooth. So what I want to do is to evaluate what he's strong into and not pick the units that he's actually strong into. Mustangs and Fangs, these are small light units. It's not going to be great into whatever board he has. Level 2 Tarantula is interesting, but he already has a Sabertooth, so I don't know if that's the right choice either. I think I'm going to go with the Phantom Rays. None of my opponent's units actually shoot up, so having some Phantom Rays is a great option. Just kind of keep them busy. Last time, I think he's got the Missile Interceptor, so that was super annoying. What I wanted to do is, let's see. My Chaff Clear is not bad. I have Arc Lights here and also have Stonecrawlers to help out with that. And since I've just unlocked Phantom Rays, maybe we'll get more Phantom Rays. Let's do that. Let's get another squad of Phantom Rays. And let's get another squad of Crawlers. So now we have a strong side, weak side. So we have these two. These are our strong side here. It's got Phantom Rays and Arc Lights. Phantom Rays are being positioned a little bit further back. Ooh, didn't get a chance to use the item. My opponent actually picked the level 3 Fangs. Not the best choice into Stonecrawlers. They will get killed fairly quickly with the Stonecrawlers, so you're not going to get a huge amount of value. And since the Fangs are my opponent's only anti-air, which means my Phantom Rays are free just to mop everything up. It's okay that he is winning on the other side, but my Phantom Ray is going to completely destroy his far right. Okay. Very often when you're playing standard, your board will kind of evolve into this strong side, weak side. So you have to make a decision. Do I put more investment onto the weak side so that it can stall my opponents even more? Or do I continue to pressure on the strong side? So in this case, there's nothing wrong with pressuring on the strong side because these Phantom Rays are very, very powerful into whatever my opponent has. And the bonus is I was able to get the AM device, and now if my opponent wants to defend against Stonecrawlers, he will have to buy another one. Alright, we got reinforcement cards. Subsidized Stonecrawler is pretty interesting, but I already have 2 Stonecrawlers, so chances are I'm not going to get the benefit of it. It does cost 50 plus the 50 that you are leaving on the table by not skipping. So to break even on this card, you have to buy at least 2. And then the third one is start to profit. And I don't think that I'll need 3 more Stonecrawlers. Let's see. Heavy Armor is a great card to put on a Phantom Ray. Phantom Ray themselves are very tanky. So we're going to put Heavy Armor on this one. So they're going to take forever to kill. Wouldn't mind having a bit more chaff. So that's an important thing to remember when you're starting off. Is whenever you're not sure what you want to put, just get more chaff. You can't really go wrong by having more chaff. The other thing to note is that last round, I think these late arriving Fangs back here, they were super annoying. So we want to make sure that we handle that. But I think the Stonecrawlers, they're doing okay damage. I'm going to add another Phantom Ray here. And with the Phantom Ray, we're going to get the first technology, which is Cloak. Cloak increases their damage by 40%, but also it prevents them from being targeted when they're moving and not attacking. So In this case, we're going to have our Stonecallers just dealing a lot of damage to these fangs. And then once the fangs are done, the Phantom Rays will be moving in and take care of business for everything else. All right, very good. Yep, Phantom Rays are cleaning up. There's not enough anti-air on my opponent's side. And the Stonecallers are just doing fantastic into these slow-moving fangs. And this is what I was talking about, right? A lot of the lower MMR players just don't know how to deal with Stonecallers. They like to use things like anti-missile, but in reality, the best way to deal with Stonecallers is just to get units in a staggered formation. If you can have crawlers, right, that is really good into Stonecallers. All right, so in this case, I'm going to take fire. My opponent has a huge amount of small chaff units, so I'm going to put some fire down and just burn them right here. Once I get rid of these fangs, then my Phantom Rays will be able to do even more damage. I'm going to level them up. Last round, I noticed that my arc lights were being targeted a little bit too soon before this pack of fangs were destroyed. So in order to compensate for that, I'm going to take a tech on the arc light, which is range. So that allows them to stay a little bit longer and hopefully deal with these fans or late arriving fans. My opponent is probably going to go fire on me as well. I would not be surprised if that is indeed what he does. Now the question is, if he does go fire on me, do I need to push shield bubbles down, which can counteract the fire? Or do I just put more units down? In this case, I want to put units down because my Phantom Rays are considered air units. And I don't think, I mean, he can kill my Stonecallers, he can kill my arc lights, and can kill my crawlers. But I don't think he has enough to deal with the Phantom Ray. And that is a risk I'm willing to take. All right. A line of phoenixes instead of getting fire. All right, interesting. So I'm going to get fire on my opponent. And the Phantom Rays are moving in, and they are getting into those phoenixes as well. The arc light with range, as you can see, are now actually doing work in clearing out those fans. And then my opponent surrendered. I think he doesn't have to surrender. I think there's certainly a counter to this board, but for now, I think he's just losing a lot of HP. So unfortunately, he was not staying into the game. All right, so that is an example of a placement match. Very straightforward, right? We're simply just looking at the board. We're tinkering with unit compositions. We're looking at where my opponent is weak at. So earlier on, we identified he really doesn't have any upshoot. So we decided to go with Phantom Rays and just continue to push in. We pick out the sort of a meta weakness, which is Stonecallers are really good into low MMR, and was able to capture the win. Let's jump into another game. And we're going to apply to the same learnings from that first game into our second game. And we're going to see if we can win the second game as well. And again, versus a unranked player. So we're still in placement. We're still facing fairly new players. And for now, we're going to continue to play standard. We're going to try to see if we can put Stonecallers in this type of games. And of course, we got Stonecallers. Fantastic. All right, we're going to pick a Stonecaller card between Sabertooth and Marksman. I think I'm going to go with the Marksman one, just because Marksman also covers a bit of anti-air. My opponent starts with Arc Lights and Sledgehammers. Both are very tricky units if they get in range. So my goal here is to keep them at bay and not allow them to get range. All right, so we are going to position our units like so. We're going to do vertical crawlers, 2 squares behind the tower. We're going to put Stonecallers directly in front of the tower so that the crawlers actually run through them. And for our third pack of unit, we're going to put them horizontally directly in the middle. Unless my opponent has a unit right here, these crawlers are going to split and going to reinforce these his buddies on the side. And for our unit of choice, you have two options. You can either get 2 arc lights in anticipation for crawlers from my opponent's side, or you can get fangs. Let's see here. Might be going with arc lights here, simply because I just don't know if fangs have enough to kind of deal with whatever my opponent has. So we're going to go with arc lights first. And then we're going to do fans next round. I'm going to put fans directly behind the tower so they're late arriving. Alright, so we're going to have arc lights here. This time we're going to put them slightly forward because I do anticipate crawlers coming in. Why crawler and why not fangs? Well, because I have stone crawler. So if my opponent goes with fangs, then chances are he is going to be at a slight disadvantage. Okay, so instead of having chaff, he's just gonna go straight up battle tanks. Lots of tanks, lots of arc lights, which makes sense because I don't have a lot of staying power. Most of my units are not very tanky. So this is one of those scenarios where you don't really need to go heavily into chaff in order to win. So good round here for my opponent. Also, another thing to note is that he is playing aggressively. All right. So first of all, looking at the reinforcement cards, I think both shield and missile are pretty decent here. I'm probably going to go with missile. Now, the first round, we actually had a bit of an issue where the tanks were just getting way too far forward. We do have a marksman for as a specialist, so my opponent is supply spec. All right, in this case, with so many tanks, I think what I want to do, you can put a shield bubble here. This will actually serve you quite well because none of my opponent's units actually have a lot of firing power. So you can serve a shield bubble here. We're going to add a squad of fangs. In fact, we're going to do 2 squads of fangs. Let's go... maybe not +1, not yet. I'm tempted of putting another shield bubble right here. Alright. So it's going to be Mustangs. Mustangs are decent, especially you have the anti-missile options. So they're actually countering my stone crawlers. But the thing with Mustangs is that now that he spent some money on that technology, I can simply sell out of my stone crawlers. There's nothing wrong with that. The shield bubble is holding. It's actually doing a fantastic job of keeping my units alive. And here's the caution, right? When your opponents overreact to a certain technology, so in this case stone crawlers, you can simply punish them by selling out. Every time you buy a technology, you have to spend an additional 200 for your next technology. So in this case, the Mustangs got the anti-missile. That just means the next technology, which I'm hoping is range, is not going to come in quick enough. Another way that you can punish your opponent is you can always go ahead and just double down on stone crawlers. But in this case, I think I'm going to go with, let's see here. Wasp is pretty decent. Level 3 wasps. But I think Scorpion is going to be the winner here. Alright, we're going to grab the Scorpion, knowing that the Mustangs are going to get rid of my missiles. This is also the round where level 3 wasps are being offered. So level 3 wasps are kind of scary. And in order to counteract the level 3 wasp, I think I might need to have either some Mustangs of my own. I think I might need to have some Mustangs of my own. So I'm going to go ahead and get some Mustangs. We're going to put them behind the crawlers so they're not engaging right away into the fight. And since we have Mustangs, want to give +1 to the Mustangs. Looking at my opponent's board, he is completely weak in the back, so I'm going to actually put a cheeky crawler and do a flank in the back here. Okay, let's see how it goes. It's going to be a sandworm. Sandworm is going to be very good into whatever units I have, especially on the side where the scorpion isn't there, but on the other side where the scorpion is there, it's just destroying everything. And now my flanking crawler are coming in. We're going to get tower, which means the sandworm will be stuck and getting shot at by this level 3 marksman, and hopefully the level 3 marksman is able to bring it down before the tower debuff ends. One more shot. And there it goes. Perfect. Alright, so now we know where my opponent wants to go, and since he's not going into wasps, we have to answer this sandworm. Portable shield is almost guaranteed coming onto the sandworm. Let's see. None of these cards is particularly good for this juncture. I think these are very expensive. Portable shield is the only card that I see that might make sense. But for now, I'm going to skip. I'm going to continue to sell out these stone crawlers because I think they are just not that useful anymore. We are going to get a few more of these scorpions. Alright, we're going to take range on them. And we're going to do one more arc light in the middle, just in case we have additional crawlers that are coming in. Anything we can unlock? Nope. Any supply? Okay. Alright, we got a single melting point with shield. So we do have a level 2 scorpion shooting at this melting point. And it is going to bring it down. My opponent did not defend against backline crawlers whatsoever, so I was still able to get tower. And then the other 2 scorpions are there to just finish the job here with the sandworm. So very good round here defensively for me. Lots of HP here. The melting point is scary, so we need to have a way to deal with that. Steel balls is a great option into melting point. Something to be concerned about is the overlord here. I think I'm going to go with fire badgers. I feel like chaff clear is one of the issues. So we're going to do a bit of protection. Alright, we're going to put fire badgers in the back here. Now, one of the units that's offered is a boat, and that is scary. So in that case, I'm going to just double down on the marksman a little bit. Do not have aerial spec on the marksman. I normally do, but in this case, I do not. Alright, we're going to see how this goes. We're going to have multi-being melting point, okay? So earlier we said he does not have a great tool for anti-medium units. Well, multi-being is an excellent tool, but I still don't think he's able to clear my scorpion before I completely demolishes the melter, and I think I might just win the round or win the game right here and now. Yep, that's gonna be good. All right, so what did we learn from this game? Well, having a pretty standard board is good, and it's also fairly easy to deal with. Baiting your opponent into overcommitting is pretty good, because I started with stone crawlers, committed into a technology that ended up being completely useless because I end up selling all my stone crawlers. Picking the right units. So scorpions are a fantastic unit into medium-sized units like the sledgehammers. They're pretty good into mustangs. They one-shot arc lights, and then they can stand on their own into melting point. So this Scorpion, it has far more flexibility than what my opponent's board currently offers. And just having a healthy combination of chaff clear, anti-unit, and chaff, and that will take you to victory. All right, we're going to do one more game also at this level, so you get a better sense of how these type of games are being played. All right. Let's choose the specialist, and since we're in placement, let's continue to go with the card that has stone collars. All right, first let's take a look at my opponent's units. So he's got steel balls and he's got crawlers. He is a speed specialist into Farseer specialist, which means there's a very high chance that he's going to put steel balls forward. Okay. In this case, I like to have my stone collars in a vertical configuration. So why vertical instead of horizontal? So vertical stone collars will stagger their shots a little bit more. And that will cause my opponent's units to spend more time fighting through my units. I'm going to buy 2 squads of fangs. I'm going to put them directly on top of his stone collars. So in order to steel ball to come in, they have to get through these fangs first. And while they're working on that, my stone collars will work on his army. There's a good chance that he's going to go all army on one side, but because I don't know which side that's going to be, so it's going to be a gamble. Okay, I think this is fine. So we're going to go ahead and deploy. So we're going to have fans at the front. That's fine. We have crawlers coming in. Alright, left-hand side is actually getting stuck a little bit on the steel balls, but it's not terrible. We still have 2 stone crawlers that are still within range of the steel balls, and I should be able to finish the steel balls, maybe. Ooh, just a little shy. But that's alright. When you're into steel ball crawler, the first round is usually the most scary because you don't know what is going to happen. After the first round, you should be able to respond properly. All right, so we got intensive training, which could be interesting. Mass-produced Wraith. Mass-produced Wraith is actually a good card for my opponent. He could put Wraith down, and all of a sudden I have no chaff. Let's go with intensive training. So in anticipation for my opponent's Wraith, I think I'm going to go ahead and put some marksman down. Last time I had an issue here with these steel balls. I wonder if I can just missile them right here. But it also might be a bit of a waste, so we'll have to see. I am concerned about my opponent picking the Wraith, so but for now, let's just get the marksman. Alright, he also took intensive training. And took a loan, okay. I would definitely not recommend a loan at this juncture. I think it's just a little too early, but you know. Double flank on the side, I love it. Always like it when there are sort of flanking plays here. So this is actually going to be a fantastic round here for my opponent. But one thing to note is that he took a loan, which means the next turn he's going to be 100 short. And also this turn, he spent 2 missiles to get rid of my front line. So that's not going to be great. All right, so we have steel balls, we have fortresses, we got typhoons. I think fortress is a pretty good card here. Finally, I get to buy some crawlers. But now I'm going to put crawlers here on the line. I'm going to give them impact drill. It is a very cheap technology. And we're going to put you over here. We're going to put the fortress over here. And I think the arc lights could get a level. Alright, so it's going to be a rhino coming in on the side. Interesting. The fortress should be able to deal with the rhino very easily. Right now, my opponent has no chaff clear whatsoever, so my crawlers will be a problem for him later on. And the melting point will be stuck at shooting crawlers forever, which is exactly how I like it. And it's too bad that he did go with level 2 melting point, which means if I want to stick with the fortress, I might be at a slight disadvantage. However, I do have a marksman, which means later on I can get EM on this marksman, and that will still ensure a victory. Okay. Mustang production line, pretty good. Most likely going to be a ion beam, maybe on this side. All right, we're gonna get range on his arc light. And let's see. I mean, he can win this side, that's no problem. With the ion beam, that's 250 once again. I wonder how much of a tempo play he is going to have. Because if he isn't going to have a tempo play, then I can just simply pile on like this. A little concerned about this crawler down here. I'm just going to use the upgrade here because I don't want to deal with level 2 crawlers with drill. But for now, yeah, go ahead and iron beam. Okay, no ion beam. It's going to be replicate, but replicate does not beat drill. So I think I am still in a decent place here. My opponent does not have chaff clear once again. Alright, so it's going to go replicate, and that just means I'm going to have a little bit more units down the side here. Fortress is firing at the wrong thing, but here it is, getting the right unit finally. My crawlers was able to take care of the flanks on both sides. Sure, he's got replicate and these are level 2 at the front, but I should still have plenty of units left over. And again, at the end of the battle, because he has no chaff clear, and this is the importance of chaff clear. I mean, this melting point will pretty much murder everything I have, but he has no chaff clear, so he's forever stuck on shooting at crawlers for the rest of the game. All right. Fire Badgers. If my opponents is already going with replicate, we're just going to go with Fire Badgers and just make it extra difficult for him to do any sort of meaningful crawler play. This fortress was actually doing great. We'll level him up. We're going to have a bit more crawlers here. There's a good chance that my opponent is just going to straight up go Fire Badgers himself. So in this case, I do want to have fortresses. Now, seeing how this might be the final round, I'm going to go ahead and take low and take range. I'm going to get +1 here. Okay, and let's see here. Maybe let's get rid of these crawlers so all my units can run forward very quickly. Alright, it's going to be Spider Mine. We actually have drill on the crawlers with replicate, so a little scary. But my crawlers should be able to get tower on the other side. So we got Spider Mine on these tarantulas, but they're simply not getting the damage done. And right now they're simply getting gunned down here. Okay, so let's take a look at the game. Let's see what my opponent did wrong. All right. I think the biggest problem is that he did not get any sort of meaningful chaff clear until the final round. Up until this point, it's just crawlers, no chaff clear, no arc light. Imagine if he's got some arc light, even a late arriving to work with melting point. I think that would be very, very good. He had a question about why did my crawler did more damage, but they were the same level as mine. I think they were doing more damage because they were supported by arc lights and also fire badgers, so they were able to surround his units a little bit faster. And I never really answered the Stonecrawlers either. They were just there to do a lot of free damage, like this guy here was doing like 83,000 damage. Yeah. All right. Well, I think this is going to be the final game of this tutorial, but I think the takeaway here when you're playing the placement matches is just to be very aware of what your opponent's boards are and just pick out what is he lacking, right? Remember, there's 4 pillars of a healthy board: chaff, chaff clear, anti-HP, and anti-air. And if you can spot any of these obvious areas, and it doesn't have to be applied to the whole board. So in this case, I can say that my opponent has no chaff all the way in this corner, which means if I want, I can put a squad of phoenixes right here, and our phoenix will be shooting at these steel balls right away and later on get tower. But these are the sort of tricky plays that you can deploy. Get Stonecrawlers because they're really good at low MMR until somebody figures them out, and then you'll have to figure out ways to play around it. But until then, get comfortable with Stonecrawlers, both playing as and against Stonecrawlers. You're going to have a pretty good time later on. And then finally, never forget about your chaff. I think the number one problems that a lot of the new players make is they're not winning the chaff war. What I mean by chaff war is that when your carry unit starts shooting at his carry units first, that just means you won the chaff war. You still have chaff left over on the ground, and he's still shooting at your chaff while you're shooting at his carry unit. To win the chaff war, the biggest problem that new players have is just not have enough chaff. That's it. As you get better, you'll find that fine balance between getting enough chaff and also enough chaff clear, like in this case, these arc lights. But for now, when in doubt, just put down more chaff. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video. There will be more videos on this topic for higher MMRs, so stay tuned. But for now, here's another video for you, and I will see you on the next one.
Prepare your tactics. Mechabellum's calling. Deploy your fortress. The battlefield's alive with swarms.